Talking Heads podcast live from Pattaya, Thailand with your host Dave D. Join us weekdays 5 till 7 p.m. Check out all the latest updates on talkingheads-podcast.com.
Yeah, welcome to Badia and welcome to Thailand once again, down here in the heart of the sunny city and in the podcast studio. What can we say? Live in the studio today, one of my biggest, of course, Matthew Kelly. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm great today. My pleasure to be here.
It's very nice to have you here again, because we've spoken before on camera, but never in this podcast studio.
Right. Yeah, you've made a lot of improvements since then.
Now, for guys that don't know you out there, let's start right at the beginning, okay?
Sure.
Let's take you back, way back, as we say, look in the crystal ball from all those years ago, right to your childhood and with your family. I mean, how did you get on and what happened there with the music industry?
Well, I'll start by saying, I grew up near Stanford University in a very affluent area called Atherton. And my father was a very well-known businessman and celebrity. And so a lot of people have this vision of me of being, this, rich kid. But little did they know that when I was 18 years old, I had a little falling out over something, a minor situation. Anyway, and to make a long story short, he said, I went on my own, and I ended up working. I was living in a one-room country little shack on a creek, working road construction. And
so, what age were you there?
I was 18.
So 18, you're out the house, get out, kind of thing, whatever, yeah.
Yep.
And you're on your own, and you find yourself in, like all of us do, who are artists around the world. You find yourself in one of those little single-room bedsits, yeah.
Well, it was beyond that. It was like the nearest town. It was called Pope Valley. It had a population of 15 people.
Wow.
It was like really rural, had mountain lions, and I lived by a stream, and I lived no electricity in a one-room country little shack. And
thinking, what am I going to do, yeah?
Well, yeah, but I was really content just being in there in the country, and I was just starting to play harp and a little bit of guitar at the time. And it was a really nice existence. And
I mean, they sort of put you when we look on the internet and when we look at different places and put in your name. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here. Put me right. But it comes up with Matthew Kelly, also known as Matt Kelly. Yeah, is an American musician, singer, songwriter. He plays the guitar and harmonica. Best known, of course, for being in one of the great bands Kingfish and that. Yeah, I mean, so how do you go from this room playing on a harp and playing on a guitar and thinking, I'm okay here, I like it, I like the country, I'm content with this? What happened next? I mean, what was your next step?
Well, let's see. My next step, I mean, it's a pretty long story, but I'll just try to cut to the chase here. I went from there, and I went back to university for about for 1 year, which I got kicked out of university, much the same as...
Can I ask why?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you why.
I want the meaty bits. I want the meaty bits.
Well, this is pretty meaty. Ram Dass, otherwise known as Richard Alpert, he got kicked out of Harvard for dabbling with psychedelic drugs, and that's what happened to me. And so I got booted.
What is psychedelic drugs?
It's like,
for a man who's never touched anything, I mean,
it's like
is it flower power stuff?
Well, it is sort of. It's like either mescaline or mushrooms, like that kind of thing.
Mushrooms. I believe that I was in Amsterdam once, and they used to make mushroom cakes. Is that the same thing?
Same kind of thing. And anyway, so so I was a UOP, and I was in my first band I was ever in. And I didn't play very well at the time, but I was still learning, but it was a great experience, and that's kind of what got me started.
But you're from the San Francisco Bay Area?
Yeah, Palo Alto, near Stanford University.
Okay, so university kicked out, yeah, you said?
Got booted out, but I was
literally?
Literally booted out. But I was in the first band I was in. We were a Rolling Stone cover band, and we opened for the original Jefferson Airplane.
Wow, yeah.
Which was really a thrill for us.
But I mean, is it, I mean, you see a lot of like movies and things about people and how they got together and all this, like when you talk about the Beatles and all these kind of things. I mean, is it that process where you're in a college and you meet people and you go to the music class or things like that, or does it happen after school? I mean, in your situation, how did it happen? I mean, how did you connect with these people?
Yeah, good question. I just met a few. I didn't go for joining the fraternities and that kind of thing. It didn't appeal to me. But I met a couple of guys that were in my dorm, and they were just starting a band. And so, like I said, I didn't even play. I was just learning how to play, but they invited me to join. And the first song I ever played was a version of Not Fade Away, and which Brian Jones did with the Rolling Stones. And I did that harp part, and so...
so when you sort of like, sorry for sort of cutting, but when you like with these guys and you've got together and you can't really play something or whatever, I mean, how do you find your way? How do you determine, hey, I want to play the lead, I want to play back, I want to play, I mean, is there anything inside you that kicks that and says, this is what I want to do?
Well,
this is what I want to play?
I was just having fun, and you have to understand that at that time I was very shy, and I had the worst case of stage fright that I think anybody had ever had. So, so it took a while for me to overcome that. But anyway, from there, jumping past that, after I got kicked out of UOP, I went on to let's see.
So you've got the university. You've been kicked out of the university. You're with your guys. You got your first band together, yeah?
Yeah.
And then where do you go from there? I mean, do you get gigs?
Well, the band dissolved after that. We did a few gigs with the Kinks from England.
Kinks, great band.
Yeah, great
You've
band.
really got me. Great track. Like it.
Good one. And so, anyway, so I ended up back in the Bay Area, and I started another band. It was with some guys, and it was called St. Matthew's Blues Band. And I met my partner that I started Kingfish with, a guy named David Torbert. It was a bass player in the New Riders, the Purple Sage, also played with the Dead. And so that was, he was, I had such respect for this man. And he encouraged me to, because I had no faith in myself. He said, Kelly, look, you've got it, And he said, so if it hadn't been for Torbert, I don't think I would have gone.
I mean, that's something we've spoke about off microphone before, and that is some people are like, they can do something good or they can produce something good, but inside their self they're always, I'm not good at this, or it doesn't sound good, or I'm not as good as I should be, or so they're always worried and stage fright, and so it's a tug of war, no?
Yeah, it is. But I have to say something about that, because I knew that I had the talent. But I just had this fear about getting up in front of which a lot of people do have, and which I overcame. But and Torbert kept encouraging me, and little by little they kind of said, okay, you need to start getting more up front and start singing, and which came later. But anyway, so we went on to start a band called Shango, and the Grateful Dead were just starting off in the Bay Area. I mean, in San Francisco. We were in the Southern Bay Area, and we had our own big following down there, and so there were several versions of the band before Kingfish started.
But this version of the band was,
well, it started off as Shango, and it was Wind. It was several different.
I mean, I sort of got something down here on my paper, the Neil Cassidy experience. I mean, what was that? I mean, can I cut in there? Is that
sure,
right?
Yeah,
Am I okay to say that?
Yeah, because this all
I've
happened.
only got notes.
That's good. It's the same era that this all happened.
Okay.
So Neil Cassidy is most famous for having been the inspiration for Kerouac's On the Road book that he wrote about beatniks, and he was just a bigger than life character. And so I remember I met him, a guy named Fat Daddy, this big black guy. We were scoring some pot, and I met Neil Cassidy, and I never met anybody like that in my life. I mean, he just starts talking, and it's like he could carry on 3 conversations at once coherently with 3 people in the room. It's just like unbelievable. And he was at all the Grateful Dead, early Dead shows, you know, and this is when they were just starting out.
So, I mean, let me just ask you, before we carry on and talk about Kingfish and the Grateful Dead and all that,
Yeah, sure.
I mean, how did you get over your stage fright? I mean, what was the biggest, you know, people say, oh, I've got stage fright. You know, I've been on stage and I've done stuff in the past. But how did you overcome that? Besides your friend telling you away, how did you personally overcome
that's
that?
a good
Or what
question.
was your fear?
Well, the biggest thing that happened, when jumping ahead a little bit, when Kingfish first started, we ended up going to Alaska, and we played 6 nights a week for like 3 months straight. We got really tight and wrote a lot of our songs that we're known for. And let's see, where was I going with this?
So you got Kingfisher, you're on the road,
Yeah,
6 months, five days a week, doing
so
your
we're in
own
Alaska,
tracks.
and we came back, and the Grateful Dead were taking a break from their Europe 72 tour, and Bobby Weir came to one of our gigs and said, "Can I join the band?" And so it was a wonderful thing because our piano player had passed away, and so Weir was a perfect replacement for that. But in answer to your question, when we were joining the band, we ended up doing a show with the Eagles and the Doobie Brothers.
Wow, Doobie Brothers. That was the one I loved was the Long Train Running.
Yeah.
Great track.
Yeah.
I love that.
So anyway, but getting back to stage fright, when we played I'd never played for, we'd always played these small clubs, and all of a sudden we're playing for 60,000 people.
Ow.
And I took one look, and I said, "I'm not going out there." I said, "I refuse." So they brought a doctor backstage, and
True? A doctor?
a doctor, and
Wow.
he injected, I don't know if it was Valium or whatever, but it calmed me down, and I don't know if it was, whatever it was,
What is, I mean, you know, when you say your stage fright, was the fear of what, going out and just standing in front of them people thinking, I'm not good enough?
No, I don't think it's...
What was your reason?
I don't think it's hard to say, because a lot of people suffer from from that, whether it's public speaking or just getting up in front of a large group of people. And so after that,
was you ever told to just concentrate on one person in the audience?
Yes, that's one of the key things that I learned. If you can find one friendly person,
that's right,
one friendly face, and dwell on that,
and play to them,
that works really well.
Yeah, sure.
And also, I went to a therapist that specialized in dealing with stage fright, and they taught me some visualization exercises that really helped. And so after that, I was fine. And pretty soon now I'm
touch wood, you can walk on and it just doesn't bother you.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me anymore.
What about when the world tours with Kingfish, recording and performing with the Dead? I mean, you know, what sort of stories have you got there that sort of pop out in your head?
Well, before we get to that, I'd like to talk a little bit about, because this is pretty interesting. When we were still playing around Palo Alto and everything, I was driving my little Volkswagen, which I basically lived out of.
Van?
Yeah, well, I had a van. I also had a little sedan. But at this time, I had my sedan. And in Palo Alto, I picked up Robert Hunter, who was the lyricist for the Grateful Dead, worked with Garcia, wrote almost all the lyrics. And he was hitchhiking. I picked him up.
Wow.
You know, I'd never met him before, and I gave him a ride up to the famous house in 710, I think it's 710 Ashbury, and lo and behold, I came back in touch with my old pal Bobby Weir that I went to Menlo School with, and I hadn't seen him since Menlo School.
Talk about being in the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
In the right car, on the right road.
And it was pretty mind-boggling, and so I saw Bobby, and then. Then we went our different ways, and then it was years later, before I came back, and he joined Kingfish. But that was an amazing.
It's like you've just said, though. I mean, you know, be it another minute each way, for whatever reason, your life path could have changed. You know what I mean? By just that one meeting, I mean, that sort of spurred different things off, So, I mean, in life, it's all about timing.
Synchronicity is the word I like.
Synchronicity. I like that word.
That's a good one,
That's a big one for me, that is, on this show. Synchronicity. What about the touring, then? I mean, let's take the Kingfisher touring, for instance, first. I mean, you know, what stands out in your head? what do you like about what you did? What you dislike about what you did? I mean, is there any sort of things that stand out?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that
Great.
stand out.
Lovely.
The difficult things is that you're playing in a different town every night, and especially when you're, in the big leagues, like when we were touring with ELO and stuff, we were playing a different big city every night, and you'd hop on an airplane, fly to Dallas, to Portland, wherever we'd go, and so that kind of lifestyle really
that takes its toll.
Yeah, it really does, and we did that for close to a year when we toured all the major places in Europe, and I think I told it to do. Then we also toured Europe with Richie Blackmore from Deep Purple, and played all the major places in Europe. But at the end of that tour, I was just fried.
I was going to say, you must have been. I mean, it's a never-ending merry-go-round that you're on until you step off it at the end of it and you just go, time for a break. I mean, it
came to a big break for me because I was playing in Ratdog with my old pal.
I was going to ask you that. I've got that down on my paper. I've got Ratdog with the question marks. Okay. So please tell me about that one. I was intrigued.
Okay, well, Bobby Weir, who's been, one of my oldest pals, and he's been a wonderful friend to me all these years, and he was starting a band. He had a band with Jay Lane on drums and Rob Wasserman on bass, and I sat in with him a couple of times, and he said, well, why don't you join the band? And I thought, well, why not? So I wasn't doing anything else at the time. So we started this band, Ratdog. And, I was getting around to, it was during Ratdog that after touring, I finally said, look, guys, I've had enough. And I just, it's not for me anymore. And I told the guys I loved them.
Yeah, sure.
But it's time for me to do something else.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I always. I mean, I'm not a musician, right? So I have to understand this. I mean, as a musician, when do you know that you want to go into a different direction and you've had enough of something? I mean, how do you come to that conclusion when you're in something that's very good?
I think it varies depending on the individual. For me, it was just I was ready for. I've been touring on and off for years and years. I mean, I was in my 50s. And I was still touring, and I decided, look, I need to do something else. And, as much as I loved those guys and missed them, it was a great decision for me because, I ended up back here in Thailand.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's amazing how, I've spoken to different people over the years. I mean, your what would you say overall your music genre, what would you say is the most enjoyable that you played? Is there such a thing as that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. The real highlight for me was playing with the old blues guys like T-Bone Walker and Mel Brown and Brownie McGee and all those people. I'm playing the Chitlin circuit, which is a lot of people don't really know much about that part of me, but that was really life transformational for
Luminaries,
me.
Yeah? Huh? Luminaries, is that right? Am I saying that right? The Chitlin circuit was the blues, the harmony. Is that right? Illuminati, is that right? Luminaries, yeah. Luminaries.
Yeah, these are all the legends,
Is that right? Is that what I'm saying? Yeah?
I mean, and to play with Brownie McGee, I mean, when I started playing harp, I learned
harp.
Harp with harmonica.
Oh, harmonica, sorry. Okay. I thought I was thinking of that there. I was thinking all those strings there when you said that.
Got one right. Anyway.
I just imagine you with all these angel wings.
Well, that's kind of cool, too.
It's kind of cool.
But anyway.
Future project.
Yeah.
So the harmonica, yeah.
But I learned by listening to Brownie McGee and Sonny Terry, and they made probably 50 albums, but they didn't get along. And then I found myself playing with Brownie McGee, my hero, and so that was really a joy.
But you can make a harmonica sing, can't you?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
I think so.
Yeah, you can do all kinds of things with the harp, and a lot of people just think of the harp as a blues instrument, but you can do all kinds of things. I've played jazz, I played zydeco, you name it, Mexicana stuff. I've done all kinds of stuff.
I mean, it's I've been to Ronnie Scott's before.
Oh yeah,
I've been there before, and I was a DJ playing commercial music, pop music, or whatever you want to do. Yeah, but I went there one night with a friend, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, that's one of the hot spots in London.
It was brilliant. I mean, I can't even tell you who was down there playing. because I have my memory, but I remember going with the guy. We were doing London. We were playing in London, and we went downstairs. And he says, "Come on, let's go to Ronnie Scott's." And he says, "Oh, it's the jazz club, and go and have a look." And I'd never been there.
One of the greats.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. I mean, that's talent.
Yeah,
talent.
When I played in London, I can't remember the name. You'd know the name of the club we played. It was not Ronnie Scott's, but another place like that. We played with Huey Lewis.
You were listening to the news guy?
Just before Huey went really big. And boy, I thought I knew that he opened for Kingfish, and I thought, Jesus, I don't want to go on after him because he was such a good entertainer. And, I have such reverence for Huey, such respect for what he does.
I seen Huey, he was doing it, they've got a YouTube channel called, from Daryl Hall and John Oates. It's called Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
And he was over there. Huey Lewis, he was one of the people on a guest.
Oh yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Brilliant.
He's a natural. He's got so much persona on stage. He's got the stage presence, and so
I think if I went sort of back and said to me, and you said to me, what I mean, I'm not too great on the jazz circuit or that kind of circuit, so please bear with me. But I the first time I ever heard Booker T.
Oh, Booker T and MGs.
Booker T. I had to listen to it again and again and again because that guy was just like in between fantastic and being asleep. But brilliant. But brilliant. He just sort of lay back and his fingers glide over this.
Play B3 organ?
Oh yeah. He just glided over this thing, and it was just fantastic. And I thought, wow. But it's I mean, that's what I'm saying. With you, I mean, being a musician, I mean, surely sometimes you're torn between where you want to go, and all these things are running through your head, and thinking what style and what do I want to do. Does that happen to you?
Well, I one of the biggest thrills I always got playing music was just going in and sitting in with a band I've never heard, and I didn't know anything about their music. I just get up and play, and even if it was something I wasn't at all familiar with, a lot of times a lot of magic would come out.
Which is moments. The jamming sessions, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, just on stage live, had some really amazing experiences that way.
Did you ever go on these things in America and that where they have like open mic and all this, and people go on and musicians can just step up and play and go along?
Sure, did those all the time. But I have to tell you an interesting story about how I got started on the whole Chitlin circuit. I went into an after-hours club in East Palo Alto, which
can you just before you start on that, can you highlight to me the Chitlin circuit? What is that?
Oh, good question.
Yeah,
the Chitlin circuit, they call it Chitlin. Chitlin is a type of food.
Okay.
That the poor black community would eat, and it's basically the places that I played were all blacks. I was the only white person, and we played all through the Deep South, and I got threatened by the Ku Klux Klan and all kinds of experience, but that's for another time.
That's for part 2.
Yeah, part 2. But I have to tell the story about this after-hours club in Palo Alto. It was an all-black nightclub where when people like Ray Charles would be in town and whoever, they'd come. It started at midnight and would go till 5 in the morning. And I came in there, and Mel Brown was this incredible. He was the guitar player for, I don't know, any of the blues buffs would know. Bobby Blue Bland was one of the greatest blues singer of all time. He was Bobby Blue Bland's guitar player. And I walked in, and I was the only white person in the club, and he was playing a slow blues. And, like I said, I was shy, but something just prompted me. Had a glass of wine, and I'm not much of a drinker, but I had one glass of wine, went up there, just jumped up on stage and started playing, which could have got me killed or something. But he loved my playing, and that night he said, "Listen, I'm driving to L.A., and I want you to come live with me in Watts and do a record." So I was just overjoyed, and that's how I met all the black guys like Jimmy Witherspoon, T-Bone, all those guys. That's kind of what got me started.
And they've got some, I mean, these guys can just, like I said, like with Booker T, they just sit down and it's just effortlessly, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It just doesn't look as though there's any effort going into it. It's just so natural.
Yeah,
which I like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of good music comes and ideas come from all these kind of these jam sessions, these jumping up sessions, like you said.
Oh, that's when the real magic takes place. And but getting back to, I just have to speak a little. Well, I don't know whether to go just quickly about Mel Brown. He was so revered. He was like the Jerry Garcia of the black community. He was a big man, looked like an African prince, and he didn't drink, which was rare. A lot of those guys, they were heavy drinkers and stuff. He didn't drink or smoke, and and so he had a presence about him. And so living with him in Watts, that was during all the riots and stuff in Watts, so that was an interesting time to be down there. And he showed me, we sit on his porch, and he'd show me, stuff on the guitar, and
fantastic memories, yeah.
Yeah, but I have to jump ahead because T-Bone Walker, when I was on tour with B.B. King, B.B. King said, I'm not the real king of the blues. The real king of the blues is T-Bone. He said, that's the guy, and most people don't know that. And so I was in a band called 33, the Doobie Brothers drummer, Patty Cathcart from Tuck and Patty fame, on vocals, and we were doing a gig, and I got really close with T-Bone, and I took care of him because he had a drinking problem. So I would tune his guitar, and on stage we were doing a gig in Berkeley, and right in the middle of a guitar solo, he had a heart attack. I caught him on the way down.
Oh,
and paramedics came and saved his life, and but he survived. But
he was a heavy drinker, smoker, yeah?
Heavy drinker, and we were getting ready to record, and 1 week before we went into the recording studio, he passed away. That was tragic. So
not nice, no.
And I had all these wonderful tapes of me and T-Bone, but none of them, they all got stolen. So I don't have anything of me and T-Bone.
That is horrible, isn't it?
Yeah. But we did a thing called Guitar Explosion in Berkeley with Kenny Burrell, Herb Ellis, all the great guys, and Robin Ford was on there, and it was Robin Ford and T-Bone and we played, and it was a write-up in the newspaper about that. But somebody's got to have a tape of that, so I'm still trying to find.
Do you also? I mean, the people I've spoke to before in the past are artists and do their thing. I mean, they all say that the person on the stage and the person in person is completely two different people. I mean,
of course.
I mean, you must agree with that.
Yeah, because you've got people have their on-stage persona that they put out, and then their personal life is a whole different thing.
What about what about stuff that you're on the road, you met all these people. I mean, what about ideas that you had in the way of like tracks and songs? I mean, how did you put things like that forward to these people?
Well, it would depend on who I was with at the time, because I would play with so many. I've been so privileged in my life because I've gotten to play with just about everybody that I've looked up to over the years, from the people from the Neville Brothers, and I mean, you name it, Little Feat, all those guys. So it depends on who you're with,
I'm just trying to find out where, for example, if somebody sits down at home and they write some lyrics or do this, how it's easy to miss something, or something gets put under the table or put to the side. I mean, how do you get these things in front of people and they sit down and go, right, okay.
You mean for writing a song? Is that
no, forgetting the song from a piece of paper to a record. I mean, what is that process? Because I don't know that process. I mean, you sit here and you tell me, it's fantastic, all these people and all these years of stuff, but the actual works of it, of how does it work from the musician who sits in his room or whatever, or meets guys, writes a song, and then goes, this is the song. I mean, what is the process? I mean, is it a long process? Is it an easy process?
I think depending upon who it is. Some people can write a song, sit down and write a song on an airplane in 5 minutes. Like I was on an airplane with Torbert, and we wrote this song called Hawaii. We were on an airplane flight, in 2-hour flight.
Wow.
The song, it wasn't a great song, but we recorded it called Hawaii, and so things just pop up like that. And other songs are more, take time in developing. They might start from a riff on guitar or some lyrics. Like there's on our Kingfish album, for instance, there's a song from personal experience called "Goodbye, Your Honor." It's a song about getting busted and my friend Tim Hovey and I. Tim Hovey was like a famous childhood star in the 50s. He was #1 childhood star. He was in Lassie and all that stuff. And he had a photographic memory. He was brilliant. And Tim and I got busted coming back from Mexico with some pot. And I have to tell the story.
I like that. I just got this film. This film's just whooshed in front of my face now
because it inspired the song. But the story is pretty amazing, actually. Because here we were. I was really naive. I mean, I was 19 at the time, and we had about 20 pounds of pot, and we just didn't think much about it. Turns out we got turned in by somebody. But anyway. At that time, the minimum sentence was 5 years in jail. And my father hired this guy named Clyde Maxwell, who was a famous attorney for the mafia and stuff. And Clyde said, I don't think I can do anything about this because you guys,
Back to rights.
Yeah. So what are we going to do? So when we got up to be sentenced, it was a federal offense. The guy in front of us had less pot than us. He got sentenced to 7 years in jail. And I was thinking, okay, I was a young, pretty kid. I thought I'm going to get raped and everything. So I decided if I got sentenced, I was going to jump through the window and just kill me. So
you've just gone from stage fright to jumping out of a window. You do realise that, don't you?
But much to my dismay, actually not dismay is the wrong word, but to my surprise,
amazing,
pleasantly surprised, the judge sentenced us to 2 years probation, and the judge, the prosecutor said, "But Honor, this is unheard of." And it turns out my father had connections with Governor Pat Brown, who wrote a letter, and that's how we got out. And so it's all
it's not what you do, it's who you know.
Exactly.
Thank you, Dad. Yeah.
So that's what inspired this song, "Goodbye, Your Honor." It's, if you listen to the lyrics, it's all about Tim and I wrote that because Tim and I were when we were in jail together. We were in the same cell, and one of the guards came up and slipped me a harmonica through the. Play and
just to play, yeah.
So
we got to make a movie. We have to make a. We got to make a movie. I'm getting on to Warner Brothers tonight. That's it.
It's interesting you should say that. I would like to contact somebody like Clint Eastwood who loves this style of music.
He does, yeah.
And
that's right.
Because I think it would make for a really good film. A lot of this stuff.
I think it is because it's there's a lot of good films over the years been made about things similar. Yeah, but to make something like this, I think it's. There's a film in everybody, but in you, there's there's about 5 episodes.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, what I'm concerned about is, a lot of these stories are so fantastic. I don't know if people would believe they're true, but I can say
that's the part.
It's really
nice. But that's the part that people do say that. I mean, that it happened. Your friends around you know that it happened. The people at the side of you know that it happened. But the general public go. That never happened.
Well, fortunately, if I can ever locate Tim Hovey's ex-wife, if she hears this, he was an amazing photographer, and he documented a lot of these things on both on his computer and on with photos. So I can prove a lot of this stuff, but not all.
No, But I mean, it makes for whatever. I mean, it's like. The thing that I was trying to get at, I've got to just get my brain back here a little bit. What I was getting at is you always see these people, these managers that sit in their office and everybody brings them in a reel-to-reel or a cassette tape or a CD or whatever at the time. Yeah. They all bring it in and you see the piles on the desk, of all these tracks that people have made. I mean, how in the old days, and I know that there used to be pluggers in the old days, because I used to have pluggers that used to come round and give you this and pay you money to play the record, yes? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, how do you get known? I mean, how do you get past that hurdle of this is a great track, put it on an album and get it out there?
Good question.
How does it happen?
Well, first of all, I need to tell you that from my point of view, I never was, quote, trying to make it in the music, but I was just playing because that's what I enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
And we just happened to be at the right place in the right time, and before we knew it, we were successful and all that. But But getting back to the songs, when our first record came out, they picked a song that I co-wrote with my partner Dave Torbert called "Hypnotized," and that was the hit off the album. But was I going? In answer to your question, once again,
my question was, how do you get recognized? How do you get to the top of the pile and get picked out of all these people that are trying to get their tracks forward? You know, I mean, you said really good that you wasn't looking for that because you.
Oh, I know what in our case, Rolling Stone wrote us up in Rolling Stone magazine as being the best band in America that didn't even have a record contract. So because we were selling out auditoriums before we didn't even have a record out.
Wow!
And so we were approached by a lot of different companies, and so it just happened. And they came. Which
today, Matthew, is unheard of.
Yeah,
it's unheard of. I mean, today, for you, you've got to have records, you've got to hits before they put you on tour and before you start filling stadiums. You've done it the completely opposite way around. You've got no deal, you've got no zero, and you're filling places.
Yeah,
I mean that's a massive achievement.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It must have been.
It
must have been.
It was a bit of a rush.
But surely when you're doing that though, I mean, number one is you've got somebody that's in charge of doing the concerts and organising them. But surely when people in the industry can see that you're filling stadiums without a record deal, there must have been so many people knocking on your door.
Well, exactly, that's what happened. But
sharks? Can I say sharks?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the right word. Thank you. Because as it turned out, as you hear so often, the management did not pick the right company, and they were pocketing some money. And I don't want to go into all that stuff, but that's what happened.
But that happens so many times. I mean, the UK, I'm not going to mention, I mean, okay, in the 70s there's quite a lot, but for one man in the UK, they had a manager who knew what he was doing. He was a pig farmer, but actually he was a very good manager. He managed them for years and years. They became one of the top bands in the UK. They retired, and when they said, okay, let's draw the money out of the bank, now they had zero.
Yeah. That's what happens all the time.
I mean, that's amazing.
I mean, you can hear that story over and over. I don't want to waste time, but I could.
You're not wasting no time. You're wasting no time
because it's happened to the main one that people is John Fogerty from Creedence Clearwater. He really took him 20 years of lawsuits to get back all his stuff.
Isn't that's just so
and
wrong.
Moby Grape and all these bands.
It's so wrong.
Yeah, and our album Kingfish went gold. It was a gold record, and I'm going to say this: I never saw one dime. Somebody was stealing all our money, and but I don't want to go into that whole story. But that's what happened.
But that's I mean. In the UK, there was a band called the City Rollers, in the UK, the Bay City Rollers. They were massive in the set, whatever you say, And like I said, they sold millions upon millions upon millions upon millions. They made millions upon millions of millions,
Yeah.
And then one day they just went, that's it. We don't want to tour no more. We want to relax. We want to enjoy family life. Let's cash in. And they went to cash in. It was zero.
Well, it's because the managers were
siphoning it. Yeah, I made investments. I put it in offshore investments. I did this. I did that, and it went wrong.
Well, all the managers out there that might be listening that are responsible for some of this kind of thing. I've never had a chance to reconvene with them, but they all know what happened, and that's unfortunate because, Anyway.
Look at Sting. Look at Sting. I mean, he found out, a few years ago, I think it was 5 years ago, that his accountant had 16 bank accounts he didn't even know of. I mean, that's just amazing. But surely, this is, it all comes down to who you work with. It all comes down to trust. Yeah? That's the thing. You've got to trust your manager. You've got to trust your team that you're working with.
Yeah, but now, I'm sorry to interrupt, but nowadays it's changed a lot because a lot of the younger kids have learned by
exactly.
Mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've got, a lot better lawyers and managers taking care of their affairs. And so that's not happening as much as it used to. And as you said, the whole record industry has changed.
Well, the whole industry's changed. I mean, you go back to when you did the Grateful Dead and Kingfish, and you did all that then. You imagine doing that now with today's platforms. You've got the Facebooks, you've got the YouTubes, you've got the Spotify, you've got the Twitch, you've got all that, which at the click of a button gets you thousands upon thousands of people watching you. I mean,
but you don't make any money for record sales anymore. I think it's pretty much you have to be on the road touring.
I mean, I remember that. I remember seeing an interview once with the Stones, with Jagger, and there was somebody else. I can't even remember who was sitting on the side of him, and he said, "It's not the record sales, it's the merchandising and the touring that makes us the money."
Oh, absolutely.
You agree with that, yeah?
Oh, absolutely. And particularly with the Grateful Dead, their merchandising is huge, and they make us, I'm not a part of that, really. I mean, but that's a real blessing for them because they've got tremendous merchandising.
But the percentage, I mean, I don't know if you know, I mean, how is it cut up from a pie, the proportion of the pie from a record sales? Do you know that? Can you remember that or anything? When you've got a record of 100%, how the pie is cut up and who gets what?
Well,
I mean,
there's a the lawyers.
How does that work?
It works. It's different with every, depending on who's drawing up the contract, and I forget what percentage you're supposed to get. I think we were supposed to get $1 a record, and like I said, the record went gold. We never saw any money. Somebody got it. I didn't get it, but it doesn't matter. I just feel grateful.
It does matter. You can't say that it doesn't matter.
Well,
it does matter.
I know. And
it does matter.
The guys in the band were really irate about it. But, somehow it's all...
The thing is...
I can't complain about anything because I feel so blessed, to have played with so many...
It's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah,
it's a very good way of looking at it. But of course, there is some artists around the world who don't totally disagree with you and say, hang on, I did all this work, I did all the touring, I did all the singing, we made all the records, we made all the money. I'm pissed off. I want the money back.
Yeah, exactly.
No, true.
Oh yeah.
And you can't blame them for that.
No, you can't.
And then of course, like you say, you're very content in what happened, and at the end of the day, you're very happy and blessed that you did this, which is fantastic. And the Sharks would love you. Well, because if everybody was like you, they'd have big pockets.
Well, fortunately, I mean, like I said, I was not motivated by, even though I was really broken those days. I was. That's not why I was there, to make money. I was in there because of the joy of playing music.
Which I totally agree with. If you're not there and you're not business minded or money motivated or anything like that, you can just concentrate on what you want to do and you love it, which is playing music, playing the harmonica, whatever you want to do. It's a far better place than the other people.
Yeah, but I'm so blessed also because I had such really
good
friends that took care of me when I was really down and out. Not the least of which was...
That's worth more than any money.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm just going to mention a few names. Like
sure.
Bobby Weir, I lived at his house, and I didn't have a penny to my name. I was, and my friend Tim Hovey, the actor, he helped me out. And so I always had a roof over my head and a meal to eat. There was times when I didn't have enough money to go across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Does it matter? Does it matter? You know what I mean? But it's great, isn't it? Because like we spoke off and on camera before, life is a roller coaster, and it's how you ride the roller coaster that counts.
Absolutely.
In my eyes. Bring you back into Thailand, of course. You're doing some great work. You're doing it with the Amicus Foundation. I mean, how's that going?
Well, we're not getting the kind of funding that we used to get anymore. So Amicus Foundation is still of Thailand. There's two Amicus, and we're still involved with that. And we're working with an organization in Canterbury called Children of the Forest, and also here in Pattaya with Kun Michai. We built a school there, and I really believe in what they're doing, and that's been a wonderful experience for me. And so as soon as I quit playing music, that's been my main thing, was my philanthropic work.
Do you, I don't know, I'm just asking. I mean, do you go to these places yourself, yes?
Oh, yeah.
Do you play any music at these places?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's not, I did see, I think Bobby put a picture outside of you playing a harmonica in front of the kids, yeah? Is that right? I think I've seen that one.
Well, there's a couple. There's some, when I was in Laos, I was playing.
Laos, yeah.
And playing with some kids in a village where they'd never even seen a white person. This was like 30 years ago. We went in Lao Prabang. all over, so that's fun.
I've been to some places myself and done a few things that you're speaking about. And I mean, to see the faces when you turn on the telephone and the music comes out the headphones and they just go, the eyes are popping out and they're all happy. It's so fun to see.
Yeah, I can tell you an experience like with Mitai's kids. We bought all the kids, these poor kids, we bought them all ukuleles and brought over a music instructor from America.
Wow.
And they became so good at what they were doing. They were doing John Lennon's song, and they actually got to perform at the palace for the king.
Wow.
And I had kids come up to me on the street and said, "You don't remember me, but you changed our lives, and it actually brought me to tears because these kids were so, they said, well, look, we had nothing, and that was so empowering for us. So that was really beautiful.
It's amazing how they can, taking away what people like you and everybody do. If you take that away, it's amazing how they survive and how they adapt and make use of things that we'd throw away. I always found that very amazing. I seen a little guy once make the shoes out of the bottles that we throw away, right, and things like that, and I just found that so touching.
Yeah,
and of course we had to buy him flip-flops when we gave him shoes and all that kind but just to see that, thinking, wow, I would never have thought of that, but it's amazing how they just pick up on things and make something out of nothing.
Well, they have to, because it's survival.
Absolutely.
And you do what you have to do.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things you learn about. That's why, in a way, it was such a blessing, from being poverty-stricken, because you learn how important it is.
I think you see
to make do with what you got.
I think you see both ends of the scales. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, and God bless them. We've never been like they are, but we've been, and you and me and everybody have had, like you said, you never had enough money to go over the bridge, but it still doesn't put us down. God bless them to where they are.
Yeah.
So anything that we can do, be it the slightest of whatever, be it a bag of rice or whatever, it still helps.
The smallest
amazing
gesture can help. And when I did a talk at the United Nations, and one of the things I shared was, you don't have to be a big organization to help. And you can help on just, the smallest thing.
Absolutely.
Whether it's somebody down the street or whoever. And, day to day, you can do something.
Yeah.
That can be.
It changes somebody. What's something that's completely nothing to us,
absolutely,
is everything to somebody else.
Boy,
and it just
might even be. In some cases, it's life change. It can save somebody's life, because somebody might be on the verge of, taking their own life, and a nice gesture like that can turn them around. This
the time that we're in now, and the situation that we're in now around the world, and especially in Thailand at the moment. I mean, there's 64 million people live in Thailand. And I think, they said now that another third of them are now totally unemployed.
Oh, yeah.
They've lost everything. The thing is, as well, I'm not going to go into politics. I'm not going to get anywhere near that. But they've got no support. Yeah. Zero support.
Yeah.
Which is
it's really sad, because I just came from Bangkok yesterday, and I couldn't believe it. It was really depressing, because, all the shops are closed down and the people are on the street, and it's really hard for people to survive.
Yeah, well, I mean, the tourist industry to Thailand, I think, is 5 or 8% of the GP. Yeah, but I mean, that's a bloodline to the normal person that wants to earn a living, because it's an income. The other stuff is agricultural and blah blah blah, which is fine. But the tourist industry is a massive impact, especially on a place like Pattaya, of course. Can I sort of sum up a couple of things today? Can I just take you over to your current music project, of course, which is Pieces of the Puzzle?
Yep.
I mean, I'm intrigued by that, Pieces of the Puzzle.
Yeah.
I can never finish a puzzle. I hope you can.
Well, I hope I can too. I got to tell you, I got to tell you, I've been working. I started this project in 1969. So you do the math. How many years is that?
That's a lot of pieces.
Yeah, it's a lot of pieces. So, so between Bobby and myself and all the other people that are getting involved, hopefully we'll get all the pieces in place and get it finished, because it would be a real shame, because I figure that I owe it to all those people that are no longer with us, like people that from the Grateful Dead and all my bandmates.
So this is what, a montage, a film? Is it music, or what is this going to be?
Every song has a story. So it's not going to be just music. It's going to be a song, and there'll be like one or two stories that go with each song. And each song, each one is it's fascinating. So it's more than music. So I don't know where I got the idea. Pieces of the Puzzle seemed like an appropriate title.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I just hope that you're not like me. I get a puzzle. It's got 500 pieces. I put it all together, and I'm missing 3, and I can never find them. So I hope it sounds really good.
Well, it's a team effort. And
yeah, that's it. Team.
So if we can, I feel good about the way it's going, and we're on a roll. We're getting close to completion now. The music part is pretty. Almost there. So the next part I have to do is just write the stories that go.
Just frame by frame, put the pieces of the puzzle together. Yeah,
absolutely.
And conclude it. Where do you see the future going for you, music wise?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, I stopped playing guitar for a long time because of this thing I have with my nervous system. But since I started playing again, and I'm having so much fun now, and Bobby and I are going to be doing a couple of just fun things around town. But I don't have anything major planned, like going on the road. If I was offered a gig to go on the road, they couldn't pay. There's no way I would do it. I don't care if they offered me $1 million. I would say no.
That's really saying something.
I swear to God.
No, that's cool.
I would say no. I'd say thank you very much, but no thank you. I would love to play with them for, actually,
step in a couple of nights or something and do something and have a bit of fun, and then,
but not go on the road.
Yeah, I understand that. Sort of turn up and do your thing, and you can get in your car and go home.
Yeah.
That's the nice bit, isn't it? I mean, it's when you said earlier about the touring bit, you toured for 1 year constantly, 5 days a week and all that. I mean, the strain, the stress, living together. I mean, okay, you can come up with some good things. It's a melting pot for everything where everybody's got ideas and all that, but also outside of the melting pot, you've got the stress and strain of traveling together, of course.
Well, that was really tough. And my partner at the time, David Torbert, this is after Weir left the band. We were touring with ELO and that kind of thing. And he had a bit of a substance abuse problem, and it got really bad. And I had to kind of nursemaid him. And eventually, have you ever heard of Don Arden, who was the manager for ELO?
I know ELO. I mean, I like the music, but I don't know.
But Don Arden was quite infamous in his reputation. He was the manager for ELO and started a company called Jet Records.
Jet Records, I know. Yep.
And Don Arden was kind of a mafia guy. And if anybody did something that he felt was out of place, he would, if it was a musician, he'd have their hands broken. Can you believe that? Don Arden. And when we went to sign a record deal, Don Arden was this big, massive, muscular guy. And he looked down on us and said, "You guys, if you don't keep your act together, it's going to be problems." And so at the end of the tour, we had Jimi Hendrix, old road manager, was our road manager. And Torbert was messing up, and he picked up Torbert with one hand.
But you're his cash cow. You're his cash cow. That's why he's saying things like that. You're his.
I agreed with him because it was really interfering. We were playing at the Munich Olympic Hall, and it was live on TV, and Torbert was not really able to play that well, and so,
it lets everybody down, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it was really sad, and it was shortly thereafter that we got dropped from the label. I might say this right, the Clive Davis man. I like him because he's amazing. He's good.
I've watched so many things on him, and he's just got an ear for it, hasn't he?
He's one of the good guys in that arena.
Yeah.
Clive Davis.
Well, but what an ear for music. I mean, he's, how he can stand in front of somebody who's like at the top of their tree and go, "You're not going to sing that. It's not going to work. You need to sing this one. It's going to be a hit." And it's a hit. So
I don't know if you know the story of Santana.
Go on. Tell it, please.
Santana, his kids, his kids came up and said, "You were a big star when you were young, but, my friends would like to see something current." And so he went up to Clive Davis and said, "Can you help me?" And Clive Davis, wrote that song. What's it called?
Black Magic Woman?
No, it was after that. I can't remember the name of it. It's a great song. And he got this young singer, and it was a huge hit. And his kids were happy.
He did it with he did the guitar and somebody sang. Didn't he? Yeah, that
this
was
young guy. And it was,
yeah,
I can't remember the name.
I'll get it. So I'm bound somebody that's out there listening now is going to go, it's that song. They're shouting at us now. You know, we do realise they're shouting at the PC screen now. The people that are watching us, telling us the song.
Oh, cool. That's good. Yeah, because it was one. It's actually one of my favorite. And Carlos is one of the great. I seen
and Carlos, talking about Carlos Santana, I seen that he was doing a fly on the wall thing, and he learned that his bongo player, was living in a trailer, no money, and living in a trailer, and he was living in a dumpster place, and Santana went in his van, and he got out, seen the old bongo player, and he was down, he had a couple of dollars in his pocket, and he went, I haven't seen you for 15 years or whatever, 10 years or whatever it was. Oh, yeah, how you doing, man? I mean, that's a good thing. And Santana at the end went, okay, so we're back on tour next week. Grab your kit.
Well, Carlos has a huge heart. He's all heart, and that makes sense to me. I was supposed to play harp on one of his albums, but it never happened. But I've always, when Santana, I have to tell this really quickly, when Santana had his first record out, he got panned by Rolling Stone magazine. And
panned is?
They put thumbs down.
Okay.
And they said, and I said, I've never, ever responded to anything like this. The only time in my life I did, I wrote a letter and said, you guys, you don't know what you're
talking about.
And so, I mean, he's such a great talent. And, Bill Graham knew that. He recognized that. He helped made Santana.
Okay, all right. We're going to call this part one because I know that you're going to come back in the studio and we've got loads to talk about.
Yeah, we just scratched the surface.
We scratched the surface and we can go more in depth on part two. And, of course, we'll follow the On the Road with Matthew Kelly, if that's okay.
Yes.
Pieces of the puzzle.
Yep. I'd really like to talk about some of the things that happen on the Chitlin circuit because there's some fascinating stories about that.
Is that okay? Can we do that in part two?
Sure.
Is that fine?
Has
it been good? Have you enjoyed it today?
Absolutely.
Good. I hope that everybody at home has enjoyed it. Thank you to Matthew Kelly for coming in the studio. It's been really, really cool, and we'll call that take two.
Talking Heads podcast live from Pattaya, Thailand with your host Dave D. Join us weekdays 5 till 7 p.m. Check out all the latest updates on talkingheads-podcast.com.